5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to your Media Mosh podcast. I am your host, Shane Beauregard, coming at you with all your news, reviews, and previews on what to watch on your streaming services and your television as we are entering Phase 2 in my state. Phase 3 will begin June 26th. That's when I am hoping movie theaters are back open, and you bet your bottom dollar that I will be there as soon as they open. And hopefully, that's when I'll be able to get back to work. This is the longest period of my life. I can't explain it to you. This past week, it's the foundation started to crack, folks. It rained for 4 straight days here, which ultimately means kids have to be inside. They cannot be outside. And it was Thursday, and they lost my remote control, and I just, I don't even remember. I went a little bananas. I had to go take a drive in the rain for a little while and just mellow out. But it was bound to happen. I don't even know what day we're in this quarantine anymore. But besides that, I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day, even though it did not feel like Memorial Day out there. So this week was just a lot of stuff going on. I learned a couple things about both my kids. As I told you before on an earlier podcast, they both are into Minecraft, especially my 6-year-old boy who is just relentless in playing it. And because of all the rain, I just kind of gave into that and just let him go full bore with it. But he has a little buddy that comes over once in a while. And if you're my age, you grew up in the Nintendo age. So all of us knew that one kid or person who you'd be over their house playing, but he would never give up the sticks. He just sat there and you had to watch him play until you finally got up and left. My son is turning into that kid. He's turning into a dickhead. He just refuses to give up the sticks. It's terrible. And then my daughter this week is making TikTok videos that I had no idea about. Yeah, TikTok videos. She's going to be 10 here in a couple months. First of all, hand to God, I've heard of TikTok, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like a Snapchat or if it's like a YouTube thing. And listen, she's making like harmless little music videos or comedy skits and stuff like that. But first of all, I had no idea. So I asked her, I said, so what is your username? HotGirl101. Yeah, you heard that right. 9-year-old has a login name on TikTok as HotGirl101. So I put a kibosh on that real quick. She can still get on TikTok, but not with that username. We had to give her a totally new. I know what you're saying. Like, where are you with your kids? But like, honestly, she's on her tablet most of the time. She's playing Minecraft on that thing. I had no idea she was making TikTok videos. So then I had to do a deep dive into TikTok because my wife said there was some security issue with them a couple months back, but apparently Disney bought them out, so now they run TikTok, so I feel a little better about it. Anyway, it's a whole thing, man. It's a whole thing. So I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day, even though it did not feel like Memorial Day. So let's get into it. I do have a little bit of news for you. The Zack Snyder cut is going to be released on HBO Max sometime in 2021. It's going to take an additional $20 to $30 million. Apparently, all the actors are on board and have been announcing it. I just hope it's good. Am I excited to see it? No. We recently rewatched the Justice League movie because it was on Hulu last week. And, honestly, it's perfectly fine for both my kids, so I just let it run. I just forgot how disjointed that movie was. It was so disjointed. It was just... Parts of it were entertaining, but I had to laugh because there were so many shots of Gal Gadot's ass in Justice League that I was thinking, God, Josh Whedon, like, literally, if you go back and watch that film, which I don't recommend, but if you do, just notice, like, almost every shot Gal Gadot is in, it frames right from her ass and then goes up. So I was like, wow. But anyway... So apparently all these Zack Snyder fans that want this cut are burning their current copies of Justice League. Why? Why are you doing that? You people are idiots. WB already has your money with that copy of Justice League, so it serves you no right to burn it. Just enjoy both. Now, this is what I'll say. I guarantee you, because there are these people who just argue Listen, I understand people like what they like, but I also think there are people who will stick up and defend for movies that they know in their heart are bad just to do it. And I got a feel in the core of these fans that want Justice League are, if it's a mess, they'll never admit to it. They will never admit to it. Now, do I think it'll be... I'm curious more than I am excited. That's what I should have said at the top. It wouldn't take much to be better than the current copy of Justice League, but I'll be curious to see where they go with this thing. So I guess that's what I'm saying. We'll see. I'm meh about the whole thing. I do want to see it just to compare it to the original one and then go from there. So let's move on for the new trailer for the next Christopher Nolan movie that's Tenet. And that trailer just came out this past week. It gives you a little more insight to the movie. I'm on board with this movie. I overall enjoy Christopher Nolan. There are some people who think he's just too much of a snob, or that he's trying to be smarter than every other director out there. I don't really see it. I am hesitant with this movie, but I am going to go see it. It does look good. I just hope it's not one of these movies that are too smart for me, which happens from time to time, especially with the Shane Carruth movie. Those movies just go right over my head, and I just feel dumber for just watching them. So that's coming out in July. In some Joe Rogan news, he is signing a new deal, $100 million to join Spotify. Now, I love Joe Rogan. I like his podcast. I don't really listen to it anymore. I generally tend to go to YouTube and just watch some of his clips. I just don't have time for his podcast anymore. It's always really long. And to be honest with you folks, I'm just giving more local, more Twitter podcasts that I listen to more shine, which I hope most of you will do. The Joe Rogans of the world are going to be all right. So go out there and support whatever local podcast you want to support. But $100 million, I don't care who you are. I didn't think Howard Stern was worth that money, and Joe Rogan's not worth that money. What is he bringing to the table? And I know he's one of the pioneering forces in the podcast industry along with Kevin Smith. That being said, $100 million, wrap your head around that for a minute. God bless him is all I'm going to say. But yeah, that's crazy, crazy money. Did you know there is a current remake for Valley Girl out right now? That's right, the Nicolas Cage classic is right now. You can rent it. I wouldn't advise it. Not to say it's bad, I'll never see it, so I know I'm talking out of my ass there. But it's like a musical version of Valley Girl. I saw that it was available to rent, and I was like, holy shit, so I had to look it up, and yeah, it is a remake of that film, so who knew? And we are 2 days away from the launch of HBO Max. Now I'm going to wait. I will probably wait until the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League comes out before I add it to my streaming collection already. I still need to shed the DC extended universe that I have. So, we're 2 days away from there. We also, last week of May, I can't believe it already. As we are heading into June, Netflix has a whole slate of originals coming out, and I will touch upon that a little bit later in the month. But as of right now, on the 1st, you have the 1995 film Clueless, you have E.T., you have the Oscar-nominated Lady Bird, which I think, Observe and Report, very criminally underrated, I believe, with Seth Rogen, directed by Jody Hill. Go give that movie a chance. It didn't really do anything when it came out, because it's a darker kind of movie, but I really liked it. And thank God, the last season of Fuller House is coming out June the 5th. I cannot describe to you how bad that show is. It is just terrible. And again, Netflix has a whole slew of stuff coming out, including a new Spike Lee movie towards the middle of the month. I will keep you informed, but we're not exactly in June yet, so that's all I have on your Netflix news. So let's look at what's your top 10 Netflix streaming movies and shows right now on Memorial Day. Number 10, you have the Netflix original show White Lines. Number 9, you have Riverdale. Number 8, you have the Netflix original History 101. Number 7, you have the new season of The Flash. Number 6, you have the Netflix original show Dead to Me, which I'm finally starting to watch. Because that's a show I watch with the VP, so she'll kind of get irritated if I'm watching that without her. Number 5, the Adam Sandler Jennifer Aniston movie, Just Go With It. Number 4, the David Spade, The Wrong Missy. Number 3, The Lovebirds. And number 2, you have the new Avatar, The Last Airbender. And number 1, the Netflix original Sweet Magnolias. That is your top That is your top 10 trending shows and movies on Netflix for this Memorial Day. Now, let's get into what I watched this week. I watched the premiere or the pilot episode of the new StarGirl show, which is sitting at 93% critic score with a 90% audience score on Rotten Tomato. And you can watch this show both on the CW and the DC streaming app. It comes to DC first. You get the longer show for whatever reason. Like the pilot episode was like 52 minutes on the DC app. It was like 40 some odd minutes on the CW channel. You can check them out on both. Starring Brec Bassinger, who plays the lead in this. She plays StarGirl. She was in the latest 47 Meters Down Uncaged movie. That's the only thing I recognize her in. She's pretty young. Luke Wilson, I talked about him last week. He was the driving force that led me into StarGirl. And then a pleasant surprise, Amy Smart, who I have not really seen around in a while. I do like her as well. And unfortunately, thank God he didn't ruin the show for me. Joe McHale is in the pilot. Thank God. Because I dislike him so much. I just don't find him funny. I don't like the look at him. I don't want to use the word hate. I dislike everything about him. So thank God he's not going to ruin this show for me. That's all I'll say. If I had one word to describe the show, it was fun. Now, am I going to stick with this show? Maybe, probably not. Probably not. But I will stick with it for a little bit because it was fun. It's a lot of action in the first episode. I thought the special effects for being what it was actually pretty decent. And I like the cast. And I like the lead, Brec Bassinger. She's very likable. So overall, it was just a very solid pilot episode. Very family friendly. I wouldn't have an issue with my kids watching this show. There were some parts of the episode that kind of made me laugh. There was towards the tail end when StarGirl gets her mystical staff or whatever you call it. Sorry, I should have wrote down what the hell it was. But anyway, and she's still trying to learn it. She has an incident with these bullies at this drive-in. And one of the kids' father is a villain. And he finds out that there's a new star man who he thinks is out there. So he goes to investigate. What I found hilarious, though, is that he puts on his villain suit and walks around the middle of town trying to investigate. Just walk out in your normal clothes. There's no need for him to get dressed up in his villain suit. I just kind of laughed internally at that part because it was a little ridiculous. But I had a great time with this show. Give it a watch on the CW. I agree with the critics and the audience. It was a solid 4. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for being what it was. It was fun. And that, I think, is the point. It's definitely one of the more lighter, colorful, fun shows that the CW has out right now. With his current catalog of Black Lightning, Flash, and all that stuff, it's definitely on the lighter side, so I dug it. Again, I'll give it a 4.0 out of 5 for me with the pilot episode of StarGirl. Now let's turn our attention over to the Netflix original show White Lines, which right now has a critic score of 63%. It was trending around number 4 last week, so I decided to give it a watch. And not to say I got hooked, but it did keep me hanging around, and it did keep my interest levels up. This is a murder mystery kind of drama show. It has elements of different genres in here, but more or less it's a murder mystery. You have, at the beginning of the very first episode, there's a body because of this big rainstorm erodes some of this land away and a body pops up. And it ends up on the land of one of the most wealthiest families in Isabella, which is where this show takes place. It bounces back between here and flashbacks of Manchester, England. So Zoe comes in, finds out it's her brother, Axel Collins, and he left England back when he was in his early 20s with 3 of his other friends. They were up-and-coming DJs. They wanted to create music, so they left Manchester to go over to Isabella, and she thought all this time that he disappeared. So no one knew what happened to him, so she arrives on the scene, finds out it's him, and all these feelings and emotions start just coming back up, and she's trying to figure out who killed her brother. So this is starting to rehash all the stuff that she never actually recovered from again. She's going through it again. So from there, the show kind of just goes all over the place. It gets very soap opera-ish at times. It's a very colorful show. The island that this show is shot on is just absolutely beautiful. But what happened when I'm watching this show, okay? Because again, every episode starts kind of with a flashback scene to kind of give you the character history of Axel and his sister and his father and that dynamic because their mother passed away of cancer. So there was a lot of tensions running in the house. But as the show went along, it's one of these shows that I did not like the lead character. I was actually more interested in the Califat family than I was the lead character because she just got so annoying and under my skin. I honestly, by the end of the show, I didn't care who killed Axel. That part became almost irrelevant to me. I was more interested in the messed up antics of the Califat family because they are as dysfunctional as any family you'll see. Yeah, they're very powerful and influential, but the wife is messing around with the husband. She's giving priests hand jobs. She's having sex with younger dudes. And the daughter's like just a traveling gypsy. She's not responsible for anything. So she comes back into town because her dad's dog dies and he wants to throw a funeral for the dog. But he wants to hand his business over to her, even though his son's been running the business for like the last 12 years now. So they just have a really messed up family dynamic, and I really got entrenched in that. So as she's making contact with his friends, because they're still on the island, and they're being emotionally drugged back into this because they're going on with their own lives now. They're all doing different things. One of them's still a DJ, but they all have secrets to hide, and that is what Zoe's getting at. My favorite character in the show was named Boxer. He's played by Nuno Lopez, and I've never seen him before, but I was rooting for Boxer the entire time. He was kind of like the family security, family driver. He was kind of like the family muscle. So, this show, I wouldn't say you have to watch one episode after the other. What I did was watch 2 or 3 a night, because to me it wasn't that on the edge of my seat. This has a 10-episode run, which I thought was pretty perfect. But this show kind of has everything you're looking for, to be honest with you. It's part soap opera, part murder mystery. You have cocaine-addicted dogs. You have orgies. There's a lot of nudity in here. You have a hint at incest. I'm not going to tell you if that actually goes through or not. But it's just all kinds of messed up stuff. So it's very entertaining. Except for Zoe and her brother. Because you come to find out more about Axel. Yeah, not a very likable guy. So, and does it set up for a season 2? It could. I think it kind of left it open-ended. I can totally see this season being the last season of the show because it did wrap up the main storyline. But if they wanted to concentrate on the Califat family, because there was actually more dirt that came out at the end of the season, they have a feud with another family, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, I kind of dug into the show. I would go higher than the critics on this. It wasn't a perfect show because it's kind of all over the place, but it was very colorful. It is well written. And I did like the cast, even though I didn't know who the hell they were. So I'm going to give White Lions a 3 out of 5. And I'll keep you posted whether or not they're going to greenlight a season 2. I kind of doubt it. So check that out right now if you want. But the main event that me and the VP ended up watching was The Lovebirds. And I finally came through with one thing I actually promised. We did sit and watch this on Saturday night. Much to my surprise, this is directed by Michael Showalter, who I like. Michael Showalter. I love mainly everyone that was in the cast of The State. Rest in peace, early MTV show, variety skit show. I love that show. So most of the characters, actors from that show I still follow and like, and I do like Michael Showalter. So I was pleased to see that he directed this movie. It's sitting at 67% critic score with a 54% audience score right now. This movie stars Kamal Nanjiani and Issa Rae. I hope I didn't butcher the names too much. I didn't recognize Issa Rae. She was in the movie The Little, and this past year she was in the movie The Photograph. You also have Paul Sparks in here. He was just in that show Waco, that little miniseries I reviewed a couple episodes ago. Pretty good character actor there. This movie is kind of cookie cutter. I had vibes of Date Night while I was watching this movie. Different movies, but similar situations a lot of the times. It's about a couple who accidentally get themselves entangled into the middle of a murder mystery. The movie starts out, first scene is how they met, and then it flashes forward a couple years. Their relationship is starting to come apart, and they accidentally hit someone with their car as they're arguing. And then Paul Sparks commandeers the car, claiming that he's a police officer. He proceeds to run over this bicycle carrier about 4 or 5 times, killing him, and then he flees the scene. And 2 strangers roll up, and they think that Kamal and Issa killed this person. So they go on the run. They don't go to the cops, they go on the run, and they're trying to figure out who the bicycle carrier was, what scheme was he involved in, and how they can clear their name. We've kind of seen this premise before, but I'll tell you what, this movie is kind of light and breezy. It actually has like a little less than an hour and a half runtime, and it moved pretty quick. I don't think this movie would have worked on the same level if we had two different lead characters, because they worked well off each other. It's like they had natural chemistry, so I bought their delivery. I mean, I bought their performances. I liked them. So that's what carried this movie for the most part, was the two performances by the lead actors. Again, I don't think it would have worked as well. There are some very funny scenes in this movie. There's a lot of one-liners that you got to pay attention to. So I might actually go back and rewatch this movie because I missed some of the dialogue. But when it lands pretty funny. There's a scene where they first get caught. And you've seen this in the trailer. They're tied to a chair and they got to take bacon grease or what's behind the door. I thought that scene was funny. When they sneak into this frat boy's apartment, I liked that scene as well. So it did have some very funny scenes. A lot of funny one-liners. Again, just kind of predictable, which is okay because I was caught up into the movie. But in the end, this movie provided me with what I needed in the VP. It made us laugh. It was very entertaining. Again, light and breezy is how I would describe this movie. So, if you're looking for some levity and you want to laugh, go ahead and give this a shot. The Lovebirds, I go higher than the 67% and 54%. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Lovebirds a solid 3.25 out of 5 for me. Go ahead and give that a watch. And that is it, folks. That's all I have for you. That's the show. And I'm going to honestly say, who knows what the hell I'm going to do next week? I have no idea. But you know what? I'll come up with something. So until then, I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day. I hope everyone has a great week as we head into June. Go ahead and check me out on the Apple Podcast Store, Media Mosh. Go check out my Facebook page, my Twitter at Shane Media Mosh. And then circle back around to Instagram, Facebook, and the Twitterverse and check out Mr. Arger myself, Chris Frodell. Until then, get caught up. Get caught up in the mosh.